Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Pelicans Daily. I'm your host, David Grubb, editor in chief of thebirdrights.com. And I've got plenty to talk about on today's show. So thank you for tuning in, checking us out. Make sure you click that like button, subscribe as well, so you can keep up with Pelicans Daily each and every day. First things first, New Orleans Pelicans added a new Pelican to the squad on Thursday, announcing that they had signed center Kyler Kelly to a 10-day contract. Terms of the deal not disclosed, but again, that doesn't matter. It's just a 10-day deal. The 7-footer appeared in 8 games for the Dallas Mavericks this season, including one start, averaging 3 points and 2.6 rebounds in 8 minutes per contest. Played 32 games during the season for the South Bay Lakers as well in the G League, aver- averaging about 11 and a half points, 7 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and 2.5 blocks per game. Was a member of the All G League All Defensive Team last year after leading the G League in blocks per game at almost 3 per game and total blocks, and was the Pac-12 uh, was a two-time member of the Pac-12's All Defensive Team while he was at Oregon State in 2019 and 2020. So they add another big man to the roster as they go into these final 6 games of the season. Just rebounding has been such a big problem for the Pelicans and interior defense as well. Karlo Matkovic, among the secondary bigs, just is an awful defender. Bless his heart, he tries, but he's just a terrible, terrible defender. The Pelicans have to do something to stop opponents from scoring around the basket so easily. They just have to do something. So I'm not surprised if they bring on another player. And again, it's a nod towards next season. This is what you're doing at this phase. And I know that there are people who are going to criticize and say that the Pelicans, should have started on this earlier. But look, you look at the final 6 games of the Pelicans schedule, starting with this Lakers game, and there's a good chance the Pelicans don't win any of these 6. There's a good chance they don't win any of these 6. You were not coming into the season. There was no way you were going to out tank the Wizards or the Jazz. They have this thing down to a science. So you weren't going to out tank them. The Hornets were a team that were like the Pelicans, expected to at the very least, chase a playoff berth this year. Injuries and other things derailed them. So here they are, and they fall, and they're in the third spot. So if you're the Pelicans and you're 6 games before the end of this season, 6 games before the end of the season, and you find yourself in fourth place, 2 games ahead of the next closest team in the chase for the worst record in the NBA, I think fans have to kind of be a little have to let this part go. There will be plenty to criticize once the season is over. Plenty. Plenty to talk about where we talk about management, you talk about coaching, you can talk about the roster, you can talk about all those decisions that need to get made in order to get this franchise pointed in the direction that it should be. But being better at tanking this year is not an area that I want to spend a lot of time on, whether it's criticizing the Pelicans or praising the Pelicans. I mean, this is where you are. You are where you are. Things did not work out the way you wanted them to, not close to it, and instead here you are, the last 2 weeks of the season, signing, um, unknown centers to play out the string. It is what it is. Uh, hopefully they find some good things out about Kyler Kelly, and maybe they add him to the G League roster next year, and you have another big that you can potentially have at your disposal next season. Maybe he's a candidate for a two-way deal next season as well. So we'll see. But the Pelicans have added a new player to the roster, giving them 19 players, including their 3 two-way players on the roster. All right, so Kendrick Perkins was talking about Zion Williamson on Wednesday. The conversation about Zion as heats up as we get close to the offseason again. The Pelicans were off the radar for a long time because of the losing, but as we get to the end of the season, Zion Williamson's future once again becomes a hot topic around the basketball world. So a lot of people have been talking about what Zion's future looks like. And some encouraging words from Kendrick Perkins. Perkins says that He has heard, according to his sources, that Zion Williamson has reset his camp, in his words. That Zion has hired a nutritionist to help him take care of his body. That he has new people in his corner, and I think that for those of us who have watched the Pelicans since Zion got in, you have always been concerned about the people that Zion had in his periphery, whether and that at times I will say includes his family and the decisions and the advice that they have given him and their involvement, the level of involvement they've had in his career. I think for any person, whether it's basketball or not, I think any person there's a point in your life when you look. There's no definitive day where it says I'm an adult now. I understand what it means to be an adult. We watch people struggle with maturity all the time, and some people don't become adults even well into their 60s and 70s. Age does not simply make you an adult. For Zion Williamson, it seems as if he is growing into manhood, into figuring out what he wants for himself out of life, how he wants to achieve those things, and who he wants there when he achieves them. That is important. And though you wish he had made those, come to those understandings when he was 19, instead he's coming to those at 24. He did a great job this year of staying in shape. He did a good job this year of being a teammate. I think for the most part, there's still some questions and there's still some things that I think you'd like to see him improve. But overall, I think it's encouraging to hear from Kendrick Perkins, someone who has criticized Zion as a professional. I don't think he's ever gone overboard with it, but Kendrick Perkins has been hard on Zion at times, and I think it's good to hear that Zion is on the right path. Apparently, that he has hired better people around him, that he doesn't have sycophants and yes men telling him that he's the greatest. We have heard about Zion's diet. We've heard the criticism from Stephen A. Smith about the restaurants in New Orleans being hoping that Zion would come in because he eats so much. We've heard about his affinity for Shirley Temples. If you haven't, you can Google that and look up Zion and Shirley Temples. But ultimately, the things that we've heard this year, primarily about his fitness, have been really good. Willie Green has talked about how he's been committed around the facility and staying in shape, and that they want to see that continue. You have seen the reports about him being at unprecedented levels of low body fat, of levels of low weight, going down to almost a high school level of weight for Zion Williamson. If that's the case, if that is the Zion that the Pelicans are going to get forward, then I think that's fantastic. I think that's a good thing for Zion. I think it's a good thing for the Pelicans, and it's a good thing for the Pelicans fans. If you can get that Zion Williamson on board, then great. And I think you also saw Shams Charania talk about it as well, and that the Pelicans are hoping that this maturity continues. But also, Shams talked about, and he did this on the Pat McAfee show. Shams Charania of ESPN was on the Pat McAfee show, and they were discussing the disappointment of the Zion Williamson era and the fact that now that the Brandon Ingram trade has happened, do the Pelicans stick with Zion or do they move him in the offseason? And essentially, what Shams said is the Pelicans do not want to trade Zion Williamson for the main reason that you trade him, he gets everything together and he skyrockets to becoming the best player he can be. He finds the help he needs on the court. He finds the maturity he needs as an individual. And if he becomes everything that the Pelicans imagined that he would be back in 2019. The Pelicans want that to happen in New Orleans. Pelicans fans want that to happen in New Orleans. They do not want to go through what they went through with Chris Paul and what they went through, even much to a further extent with Anthony Davis, is to watch players who were great for you go on and flourish for other people, even though you had the ability to make things great where they were. You know, Chris Paul didn't leave New Orleans because he hated New Orleans. He left New Orleans because he wasn't winning. Anthony Davis, though I know people still get riled up about his lack of a thank you to the city and the organization and all that when he was traded. And that has put certainly his future jersey retirement in jeopardy. But if Anthony Davis had won in New Orleans, the likelihood is that he probably would have stayed in New Orleans. That increases the likelihood. It doesn't guarantee anything. People want to leave, they're going to leave. But I think winning is always the thing that you use to mitigate wanting people to leave. I think that part of the problem with fans is that you think that the contracts need to be the thing that keeps players wanting to stay with their original teams, and that's just not going to do it. There's not enough money to make me to make, and that, it feels stupid saying that, but I think for most people, there's not enough money to make losing and frustration okay on a daily basis. At some point, too much is too much, and you just can't do it anymore. You don't want to do it anymore. It's not enough to see the zeros hit your direct deposit every couple of weeks. We all in life want to feel like we're accomplishing something with what we do. It's not simply good enough to be great at what I do. It's does what I have does what I do have meaning, whether that's on a grand scale, an esoteric scale, an emotional scale, whatever. I think we all want what we do to have meaning. And certainly for the Pelicans, they have what Zion Williamson has done when he's been healthy. In the 214 games that he's played for the Pelicans, he's shown that he can lead them to be a better team. He can elevate the franchise. The question has always been his health. And the Pelicans and Zion have to figure a number of things out this summer. Everybody needs to understand what it is they're trying to do and how quickly they're trying to do it. Um, Again, Zion has 3 years after this one on his contract. 3 years. And so in NBA parlance, we know going into his last year, he's not, if you have not already squared things away going into his last year, you're probably going to have to trade him if you have not won. So you have 2 years. So let's say the Pelicans finish with 22, 23 wins this season. Okay. A reasonable, let's say, if all things go well, if Zion is healthy and plays 65 to 70 games next season, if you draft a number one pick who comes in and is a good contributor, if you can get most of the season, if you can get 75% of the season out of Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones, if you can get a solid 20 to 25 games on the back end from DeJounte Murray after he comes back from his Achilles tendon, if you do all these things, there's a lot of ifs, obviously. But I say that to say, hypothetically speaking, if all things go fairly well, not perfectly, but if all things go fairly well next season, let's say a 20 game improvement is not out of the realm of possibility. So let's say you get to 43 wins. You're still not a championship contender at that stage, but you've made significant progress to walk back what you lost this season. Then year two of this is the year that you have to be ready to go all in for. And what's interesting is I think the Pelicans are kind of set up to do that because of the contracts of DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum. The Pelicans could, on the one hand, you could eliminate CJ McCollum this offseason, um, or you could keep him into next season, which I think is where I'm going with this setup, is that you keep CJ into next season, and as an expiring contract, his value during the season could set you up to make that move. If you can move him in during the season for draft picks and get that salary off of your books, you put yourself in position to go after that other big player to be a champion. DeJounte Murray's contract, if he can prove that he's healthy, you either have a guy that you can have and count on for that second season and push, or you have a guy that can prove that he's healthy and you use him to help make another move to stack assets for that final push. Because by then, if you've got a solid number one pick back, whomever that is, you've got Trey Murphy healthy and he's giving you 22 to 25 points per game. Zion is giving you 25 points per game. And you can add that other piece. You find that solution at center. All these, this is a lot to do, but it could be done. I'm just saying these are things that could be done. Um, Whether or not you have faith the Pelicans can do them, or that you believe David Griffin is the one to do them, those are different questions, and we'll address those as we get deeper into the summer. But saying that that second year, the possibility, if you can, like I said, if you can have a quality year next year, get to the bottom, if you're in play-in category again, if you're in that 6 to 12 area, but fighting for a play-in spot next year, reasonably looking for a winning record, and then you set yourself up in year two to chase a championship, then you can talk about a long-term goal for Zion Williamson. But the immediate part has to be those first 2 years. If you don't solve those first 2 years, then you are trading Zion Williamson most likely um, in the 2026-27 season. Before the 2026-27, or during that season, you're moving on. So I think that's the issue, is that the Pelicans are going to have to make some tough decisions this offseason. They're going to have to decide, what are we are if we are building around Zion, and you have to decide what your timetable is. But I do think that the timetable is reasonable. I do think that, uh, based on what you've seen, is that Zion is interested in winning in New Orleans. So if that's the case, then I think you do involve him. Now, that doesn't mean he has decision-making ability, but you involve him in decisions about coaching. You involve him in decisions about the future of the franchise, because you want him to feel engaged. It is not to give him power that isn't due, but you want him to feel engaged. And engaged Zion Williamson is always the best Zion Williamson. So I think that that's really important here going into the offseason, is that the Pelicans have a plan. And that part, it seems easy, but that's been the most difficult part, is I think the Pelicans have been far too reactive over the past several years than proactive in building this team around Zion Williamson. And ultimately, that is why they have failed to win in a significant manner. Finally, it is game day for the Pelicans. Um, they visit the Los Angeles Lakers for the final time this season. Um, the series has not gone well for the Pelicans. The Lakers 46-29. They will play on Thursday night, so they'll be only back to back for this game against the Pelicans, while the Pelicans have had their day off since playing the Clippers. Uh, this is the Pelicans will have the same players out. Everybody you expect to be gone is gone. Um, no new additions to that. It looks like Jordan Hawkins may be gone for the way things are going for the rest of the season. I don't see a reason letting this young man play. Lumbar spine fissure. His back problem is not going to get better. Into the future, it's just going to be something you can manage. So we'll see what happens there. But Jordan Hawkins, that has to be concerning. He had back issues coming out of college, continues to have back issues. I don't. Um, Again, I'm not high on Jordan Hawkins. I'm out on Jordan Hawkins. Y'all can take Jordan Hawkins. I just don't see him being an important piece for the Pelicans. This is the third and final meeting between these teams. Lakers won the first two while they were at home. The Pelicans lost by 5. They came to Los Angeles last month and lost by 21. That was in one of the early games with Luka on the court. The Lakers dominated the Pelicans inside. I think that's, again, when you go back to the signing of Kyler Kelly, this is for that game. Just the Pelicans could not handle the Lakers inside. They were just dominated by everybody, including Jackson Hayes and Trey Jameson the third. So those guys had big games against the Pelicans last time. They're going to have to be much better on the inside. They got to make some threes. They got to make some threes. You're not going to win any games making 4 threes. You're not going to make it. And this has been, again, this is a recurring issue for the Pelicans. And Willie Green, that's the frustrating part, is him saying we got to take good shots. We got to take good threes. How do you allow this to happen, though? Like, I got to tell people before they go on the court, if you're not taking threes, you're not playing today. Yeah, it's not about 50 to 60 threes. It's about y'all got to get up those 30 plus numbers. That has to happen. If you're not hitting 30 every night, if you're not shooting a minimum of 30 to 35, that's where you really want to be. 30 to 35. That's the number. Pelicans have to get to that number. They got to get to around 15 makes. 15 makes is hard. It is a difficult number to get to. You have to make your shots, especially if you're talking about only 35 threes. You're shooting dang near 50%. So if you want to get to 15, you got to get closer to that 50 number if you're the Pelicans, if you're shooting basic average for threes. But if you try, but on a consistent basis, you got to be around 12, 13 every night. You've got to be getting double digit threes. You got to be getting that 12, 13 area. And the only way you can do that for the Pelicans is by volume. And yes, you are missing the most prolific shooters on your roster, but guys weren't taking shots. Guys who should be taking shots were not taking shots. When Jose Alvarado leads a team with 5 3-point attempts, it's not good enough. And yes, the Clippers are a very good defensive team, but you've got to force tempo, and that's something the Pelicans struggle with as well because they don't have a lot of ball handling options. So they will play another late game on Friday, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. locally, excuse me, 7 p.m. in Los Angeles. So 9 p.m. locally. Good luck staying up to enjoy that one if you're the Pelicans fan. I will be watching it, of course. Um, Pelicans would always like to beat the Lakers, but this is one where I think Pelicans fans are fine with the loss. Again, for me, as I watch these games, it's much like the preseason. I'm not looking for wins and losses at this point. I'm looking for how do people play? Do they play with aggression? Do they play with intensity? Do they compete on every possession? And then the other thing that you're looking for is the rookies. Those are the only people I'm evaluating at this point. I'm looking at the rookies: Antonio Reeves, Carlo Makovich, Yves Misi, and Keon Brooks. I'm looking at them. I'm looking at them. They're the only people I am watching on the court. Because the other guys, I've formed my opinions about them. I know what each one of them is and is not, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion. So I've made my decisions on the rest of the roster. It's those guys, the rookies. I want to see how they continue to play during these final 6 games because this season is on them now. Not winning or losing or things like that, but hey, you're going to get 20 plus minutes every night. You're going to get the opportunity to shoot the basketball. You're going to get the opportunity to show you can defend and compete against some good quality opponents. The Pelicans are playing tough teams down the stretch. Okay, so these rookies are really going to get tested because they're playing against teams that have something to play for. The Lakers have something to play for. The Milwaukee Bucks have something to play for. The Brooklyn Nets do not have anything to play for. That's a road game. Pelicans, that's one of the ones they might win. But again, they play the Bucks again to finish that season series. Bucks have something to play for. The Miami Heat at home will have something to play for. The only other game of these final 6 that where the home team, where the Pelicans opponent will not have anything to play for is the season finale when the Pelicans host the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder by then will have clinched the top seed in the West. Things will be done. They'll be resting their starters. And that will be a matinee game with no stakes. But of those 6 games, 4 of the 6 have stakes for the opponent. So I don't see the Pelicans coming out with a lot of victories. But what you do have is an opportunity again for those young players to prove themselves. To say that you can bet on me, for Antonio Reeves to say you can move on, you can feel comfortable moving on from Jordan Hawkins because I'm cheaper and I'm better. He can prove that. He can lock that up over these next 6 games. He really can. If he continues to shoot the ball at the clip that he's shooting it, even though he went 1 for 4 from 3-point range, but he was 5 for 10 overall against the Clippers. If he continues to shoot at a high level like this, he's making the case. If you're Carlo Makovich and you want to be on the roster coming out of training camp next season, then show you can play some defense. If you're Yves Misi, work on the things that over these last 6 games, simplify. Simplify. Work on the things that are going to keep you on the court next year. Can you pick and roll? Can you run the pick and roll effectively? Do that. Can you attack the rim? Do that. Can you catch the basketball better? Work on that. If you're Keon Brooks, continue. Drive downhill, be relentless on offense, shoot the open 3 when it comes to you. Do not hesitate. Let that thing fly. What are they going to do? Put you on the bench? For whom? They're signing guys off the street with 2 weeks to go. What are you worried about? There should be no fear from any of these players about getting benched or having their minutes taken from them. Take the shot. If you're Jamal Cain, shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. What's the worst thing to happen? You're going to miss and they're going to sit you on the bench. You've been sitting on the bench all season long. Here's an opportunity to play and find out what you're made out of. If you're going to go down swinging. If you're one of these young players and you're on the fringe of an NBA career anyway, you have no guarantees in your life anyway. Shoot the basketball. What's the worst that can happen? You miss. You miss. Y'all been missing. Take some shots. Give it a chance. All right, folks, that'll do it for today. Um, hope you enjoy the game tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, you share it to your friends, your family, whomever else might enjoy talking about the Pelicans. And make sure you let me know what you think of the topics. If you've got any questions that you want answered, you want topics you want to discuss, go ahead and put that below. You can also follow me on social media at DM Grubb, and you can check out thebirdrights.com for more Pelicans content. So until the next time, y'all be good and enjoy the game. And let's go.